Hi, my name is Aneesha. I'm the assistant curator at the Geoffrey Bawa Trust. Thank you all for joining us today at the Field of Jazz. Firi, thank you so much for being here. As we celebrate the 75th, now going on the 76th anniversary of the Lunuganga Gardens, the Geoffrey Bawa Trust invited three very special people to sort of interact with the garden and uphold this tradition the garden has of being a backdrop for artists for decades now. We've had artist Rina Kalat. You see her work at the garden currently and in the main house. And we have Firi here with us. Very lucky to have Firi here with us. And we have his outdoor installation, the Perch, that is right behind us. So we're just going to have kind of a conversation about his inception of this work and sort of a little bit about his background too, and sort of the build up to having this piece of work here at Lunuganga. Firi, just to start, we are seeing quite a few young faces in the audience. So just if you could give us a little bit of a background on how you started your journey as an artist, just to start with.
Okay, thank you, Anisha. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. For the first question, I think being a Sri Lankan and being a brown person, I would say I could actually just draw really well when I was a kid, but I just usually draw most of these cartoon characters and such things because I really wanted to be maybe an illustrator kind of person. Maybe I don't know what I want, but I can just really good at art because I'm sort of like an introvert in the school. So only one reason that people know me is because the art, I would say. And I think it's just like a very early times, like I just scribble, draws, everything. So my uncle used to bring these paper stacks from the fax machines. So it's like a rolls of papers that I just kind of draw like everything that I can draw. And then also like I have this like crazy thing about making collages. Like I have this scrapbook kind of thing which is not there anymore. But I used to cut all these animal pictures. When I see a newspaper or maybe a sticker or something, I just cut every pieces and just make like a little scene. Like if it's something about the birds, then I would just draw like trees around and everything. I just stick the stickers on that. Just kind of make a scene of like if it's a scene about the lions, then I'll draw these cubs, and I'll just sort of like really like place them perspectively also. And cut these like white borders because it annoys me because I want it to be very neat and clean. So I just kind of used to do those kind of things because I don't know, I'm very much into these animals and I want to like really draw. And I also grew up with parrots, so I just draw parrots a lot. And so that's how it started. But also then I didn't really thought that I would become an artist sort of thing. I don't know, it's just a sort of a stereotypical thing to say that being an artist, it's like, I don't know the families. It's like you're sort of like doomed to disappoint your family kind of thing if you're an artist. So it's just kind of, they don't know, they don't get it, like what the art is like. So for me, like I just draw that I can draw. And then I was just kind of like following and very confused after the school, not sure what I want to do and what I want to become. It's kind of like, but I just keep my passion just going on, I just like kind of draw everything and then not really showing to anyone, but it's just with me. Then Instagram started happening. Then Instagram was very new, and then I thought, okay, it's nice to kind of put things out, because because I'm not coming from very much artistic background or like from the studies also. So for me, like I don't know what the portfolio is like, how do you present yourself, how do you write about it? It's like I have no idea about it. So then what I did was like whatever the drawings that I do, I kind of post it on social media because it's nice a place to kind of look through all the works. That's how it started, because then I was doing most of the illustrations, just drawings, like illustrations in the sense like a very much cartoonish characters and stuff like that. Also keeping it in mind like, okay, maybe I can be a graphic designer or illustrator, at least like I'm sitting in front of a computer. So it looks like an actual job, So for me, I just felt like that I will do that, but the art just happened. Like, I was like kind of drawing, but I was very true to myself. And then that's how this all the journey begins. Then the gallery approached me. That's the time I just also kind of like introduced to Sri Lankan art scene, and I know some artists, but I just really got this deep understanding of the arts from that. So that's how all the magic happened from there, I guess.
It's really interesting to see sort of your focus on nature from such a young age and kind of seeing where it is now. I think a lot of us are informed of sort of the importance of nature in a lot of your work, but I think something that we also tend to miss is that your work is also so informed by space. And I think you also do so much work that's related to sort of urban spaces. And kind of growing up in Colombo, I think a lot of us have seen all our urban spaces change so rapidly.
Yeah.
I'd just like to know how you think that has affected your work as well.
So I don't know if it's really affect my work, because that's actually the way of my life, because I grew up in Colombo and like very much urban space. Maybe also the drawings I do sometimes, the students who visits me and they just very surprised because I'm in a very chaotic surrounding, but my works are very time consuming. It's very sort of like, you can feel that it just like it takes a lot of patience to do, but the surrounding is a bit of chaotic in my area. So for me, like, I don't know, because I grew up in that space, but it really affect me in so many other ways now, I feel, because like now, of course, we have to maybe move for a new place, now I can work on the large scale works, and I feel like, okay, now I need a better space, better light. So those are the little challenges I have. But other than that, like the space where I'm coming from is what actually inspired me, because I was rooted there. And for me, like that's one of the conversation also we earlier had. I'm not looking at like this great artist and I'm inspired by this Picasso. Like there's nothing like that, because I'm just very much looking into very much like living artists that are doing things, want to know the process behind it. Because even like just working, sometimes when people says me like this is how you should do it, and I just get really annoyed because oh, this is a hatching technique, you shouldn't do this way. I'm like, no, maybe I just want to find my own ways. So for me, like every work I do very much rooted so to Slave Island, to the area I'm coming from, and it's very much about my space, even not only outdoor but also indoor. So I think there are like a changes that's happening, but also that's the process. I feel we are like living in that moment at the moment. Yeah,
and do you think is that what sort of made you get into your project with We Are From Here?
Yes, We Are From Here. It happened because of like, of course, I work in the art scene and stuff like that, but also it's like I feel sometimes it's very limited to certain audience, because also we don't have a culture of like people going to museums, like, and it's very kind of new thing, people now they started to kind of explore those sides. For me, like also when I do my work, I feel like sometimes it's only for outsiders, and then my own people don't show up. Sometimes even my family don't show up, so for me, like then I feel like they're a bit hesitant to kind of look at this stuff. And also then I was coming from the area, why do I want to like also think about only art in a gallery space, but maybe outside, and not to like bring people to the space and bring art to the space where they are already. So that is what the idea behind it, and it started from a very idea of like just kind of doing some projects about murals, and we started collecting. I was like doing it without even knowing what I want to do, collecting objects, tracing down the maps. Everything was like kind of piling up, and I'm like realizing like, oh, we could do something about it, but then also looking at like mentors, of course, in Sri Lanka, like I was looking for any community-based art projects, there's nothing happening. So for me to even get an advice, it was a bit of a task. So then I wasn't sure like whether if I want to start a project, something like this, or I was just kind of doing it but not even like posting on social media. The friends are volunteering to be part of it, just we did it. And it took some time for me to realize it's actually worth doing something like that, because we get more people coming, more people like welcoming it. Somebody just sort of reached to so many people, students are coming. Then I thought like it's a sort of like we see this educational opportunities for this project also, because initially I really was hesitant to bring someone to my neighborhood. But now I see that, and I thought like, yeah, we want to work on something and bring more awareness about it. So the project is also like, even though it sounds like art project, it's like a very small part of the art is there. Like the mural is like 20% of the work, but it's more about connecting to local, talking to them. So that is what I want to do, because I just feel like all the project that happens, like, they just in 3 months or something like that, I feel like it should be a long-term process. Then it's just that then I feel like I'm just really actually working on it. So that's how they are from here.
And especially places like Wakanda that is so close to where you are, that have completely changed in the last few years. It's like you've almost archived an area and a community, which is really great. And I think that's also something we wanted to touch about. Your work is really personal. There's a lot of emotion in it, and I think even tying back to sort of the work that you do from here, it's your community, it's people you know. And even just this piece behind us, when you sort of explained your story behind it, it was really moving.
Yeah.
And I'd just like to know what it's like kind of bearing your soul sometimes.
Okay. So I think I have two, maybe I don't know, they're like a different personalities I have. So sometimes I just want to go crazy with color works and something like that. I want to do like outdoor work. Sometimes I want to do very personal stuff, So for me, I think everything started from that exhibition I did in 2020. So that is the time, after the lockdown. And I was always, my works are focused on like outside my doorstep. Like it's very much based on the research, engaging with the audience, engaging with everyone else. But in 2020, when the lockdown happened, then I am not engaging with anyone. I have to engage with the things that's lying around my house. So that is what happened to me, Then, and the time, that was the time when my dad passed, and then it was the time just sort of like, when the grieving is happening, and then trying to process things, And then for me, that everything just fall into place. I was like, why I'm looking for inspiration outside? It's just there, like, And I didn't really thought about it is at work, because I was just drawing so many stuff. I didn't really share. So I post it on social media, then I delete it, because I feel like, oh, maybe it's not a nice thing to share, like about myself or something like that. So then all the posts I also did, like, the drawings I did, sometimes I just threw them away, because I don't feel like it's good to be kind of exhibit, or maybe it's too personal. So then I kind of like kept everything. And then right after the lockdown, and when I met my gallerist, so I was telling like, I didn't do anything all this while, because I'm very much lost. I don't know what to do. So then next week she was like, no, you take your time, and then you should. Then I said, okay, I have some drawings, maybe I can show you. When I saw the drawings only, then I realized like that is the work. These 2 years of like thinking, the thought behind it, that is the actual work, not the drawings. So for me, then that magic happened, like, there, like I didn't actually share those works in the exhibition. Then I did a series of work very much connected to that. So that is where the work was sort of started. And, then I realized, my way of working, what I'm true to myself, that feels like very much about myself. So then, and I didn't have to try, just like it just flows just like that. So that's the beginning of that, and then now here, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that also like leads us on to our next question. You've done so many solo exhibitions in mostly a gallery setting, and then you kind of turn that upside down when you come here, and it's you're sort of interacting with a completely different environment to as you usually would. And I think just if you could tell us a bit more of how that switch from sort of this gallery setting to this vast open space of creating this very large scale outdoor work.
So I think it's really challenging for sure, but I was excited as well, because when Shairi approached me, the curator, and she said about the garden project, and I wasn't sure like what I could really do. I was like, have no idea what's going to happen. But I was like, as soon as she said about the Geoffrey Bawa Trust, I'm like, yes, if it's Lunuganga, yes. Because I was very much like, last time when I came here was the gift exhibition was happening. That's the first time I actually came. Even though I saw pictures and all, I always wanted to go, but I never got a chance to go there. So then I came and did the tour with Shari. It was like really like a sort of refreshing to see artworks outside, not inside, but somewhere like people are interacting, and something that really blends with the nature, and I kind of really liked it, and it was like also a new thing for me to see, like in Sri Lanka for me, like, oh, there like stuff could happen like this. Then I was like equally excited if I could do something like that, but of course we don't have such opportunities. So then when Shari approached me, I was pretty much really confident I can do something too ambitious, but I don't know what I'm going to do. So, and then July, we had this opening launch was there. Like I'm sitting right here actually with my friend. Was like really not sure. Like I'm thinking, oh, like there's so much to take. I don't know what to do, but definitely an outdoor installation. But and also like too confident. I was also telling Shari, oh, like I'm going to do this on the next season. Then I realized the next season is just 3 months away. I was assuming it's going to be 2024. Then everything was very exciting for me. Like I'm also trying to like think a lot. There's so much inspiration. Even the first talk we did also like trying to connect my work with so many things that's already you guys are doing. So then I think it kind of fell into places. And then I was going back to like came up with new ideas. Of course, we had a great team that we discussed a lot about stuff, and too many visits. I'm taking that opportunity to kind of come here and like spend some time and just like learn something and do something. But then we did so much drawings, and like I came up with ideas and all, but it actually fell back to this old drawing that I did, because then the one of the drawing that I did as a part of the series for the last exhibition is very much like what you see here. So it was this idea behind the perch. Also, like I design it like, because I of course I build a lot of perch for my injured birds, because that's some of the thing that they can just kind of maneuver through or whatever. And in the last exhibition also I was talking about it, because I use this perch because also it's more like what I built for like my dad. In the bathroom we put this, when he was very sick, we put this like handles to hold. So all this stuff that we make sure that they can access. So the same thing I was doing for the birds in the perch, but then also like I keep this bird perch everything like outdoor, because I'm coming from Colombo, looking through this only the window frames. So it's always like there's like a cut and like a voids in between. So the drawing, I was just kind of drawing that perch and erasing these lines. It's very much like it's not a cage. I don't want to call it cage, because it's sort of like a barrier that we put for ourselves, for myself, I guess. So then I just did very invisible lines and I erased it and then show the drawings, and we thought, okay, why can't we actually do this in a 3D sculpture based project? But it was very exciting, but also it's not easy, because it's not like just drawing on the paper. So anything is possible when you just draw it, but also this is very first outdoor installation for me to take. So I was equally excited to kind of do it, but also don't know how to do it. But at the same time, looking at this space, I don't want something to build that is alienating the space. I want something to kind of blend with the existing garden space, And even like the timeline for the project, we also have to keep this installation for such long time. And then the materials that I have to think. And also I don't kind of like trying to minimize this materials that's going to be there, no plastics or something like that. I was thinking something very organic materials that we want to use. So there's a lot of thought process behind it. So of course we all had Zoom calls, and we had like so much nice discussions about it. And then visiting with you also here many times, and finding the right location was a bit of it's not easy as you just see it on right now. There's a lot of work behind it. So I was very excited to kind of take that step and just do something out of my comfort zone. Of course, because it was possible, because now I feel I couldn't do this kind of work before, I didn't really thought I could do such work, because it's always very much the work, even the drawings I do, like very small scale works, not really large, because I'm thinking about my space. Even the space sort of restricts yourself from your practices. So for me, the drawings I do, like A4 sheets, because I can just lie on the bed and draw. I can't like sit because of bad lighting inside the house. There's so many things. But here to come out and just like look at the space and take all the possibilities. Of course, like one of the things that we also as an artist we struggle is like to get the right place and the right funding and right opportunity to do kind of things. So it happened. So then thanks for this Geoffrey Bawa Trust. So that I feel like that is where like I see the potential possibilities that I could do. So then it's all like we all like kind of starving artists like waiting for the opportunities to kind of do that kind of thing. So I think this is one of the that moment for me. And then of course like building this was it's a dream, but also then it's a process was like bit of a crazy process because I don't even know how to hammer a nail. So so lucky like I happened to meet, shout out to Kanye.
Is he
So
here?
yeah, he's here. So that's just a nice collaboration also, like the everyone just we work together. It's also like a new thing for him, also new for me, but we sort of sharing the knowledge, learning throughout the process was that's what it's all about, I feel.
What's nice is the Geoffrey Bawa Trust, when it was established at the time of Bawa, is that the mandate is to further art, architecture, and ecology. And it's really interesting how your piece kind of brings all these aspects together. Seeing you work on this sort of two-dimensional plane and sort of take it to a three-dimensional plane. And also you picking out sort of these architectural characters from the garden. Even sort of the shape.
Yeah.
Would you like to speak a bit about?
Yeah. So for of course the Perch is something I build at my home, but then I'm just like mostly here whenever we visit, we just like walk around. I take my time to kind of like observe, and I don't do sketches though, but I just kind of like a time to take like too many pictures that I could take. And also then the first 2 days when I stay here also it was very everything is so aesthetic. Like the window, just even if you're in your washroom and you just see the window, you have a nice frame of like garden behind it. So I feel like the way it was built, also like every corner was like sort of picture framed. So for me then I thought like, oh sorry, that's a bee. So then picture frame was like I just feel like there's always a frame, and how I just kind of looking through these windows and stuff. At the same time, this is very much like how I draw things in Colombo also, like because we have very much a small space to see the gardens and greens. So I used to have like the plants that I grow in the balcony of the house. So I'm just always seeing this like a gaps, and very much like it's kind of like a mix with architecture and the greenery, the organic forms. So there's very interesting forms, where you have very interesting organic form, and then you have very straight cuts, the horizontal cuts, the curves. These are like very much architectural forms that I see. So here, like I'm kind of walking, and I'm just kind of also see like the two different things, like it's all the nature, of course. But then you see one part is very manicured, and one is really completely wide. So then it's like sort of like, but it blends together. But this very invisible barrier that we have, we don't always see. So even like when you just sitting right front of the lake, and there's this Valakulu Bamba, no? Like
The serpentine wall?
yeah, it's like a little fort kind of structure. It's very simple design, but I was trying to mimic that here. So I got that inspiration of like that fort kind of structure, and then trying to build the same thing, but in a very much how it sort of blends with the nature and the architecture form. So this structure we initially wanted to like build together in one long form, but thought it would be nice, interesting to people to kind of walk through also, because it also works like an illusional work, because we have like straight cuts, but if you stand right at this tree, you will see like works as illusion, where you see these cut throughs and more like something is in between. But when you walk and you come closer, it sort of like comes together as one piece. So I want to kind of mostly work on those illusions and how, because it's everything is like whatever the barrier, invisible barriers that we have is sort of an illusion that we thinking. So I just want to kind of bring it here. Yeah.
And when it came to material choice, I think it was quite lovely that you stuck to using the cinnamon stick.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So for me, we were looking for different. I used to do purchase in different materials, but here we came here, and of course this is where the cinnamon was planted, and the gardener, lovely gardener, was like giving us a tour. So it's everybody was contributing to the project. That's the beauty about it. So when we came here, we just kind of like, he was just kind of pointing at this place. I was like looking for space. He was like, why don't you install it here, because this is where the cinnamon were planted. It was so nice to kind of think that okay, it was like, okay, when I said I want to kind of find something, like looking for materials, but of course then something that lasts long, and cinnamon, it came to mind because we see them using around widely in the coastal areas and stuff. So then we came here, and again with the gardener, he took us to the
Samarasi.
place. Yes, Amarasi. He took us to the place. It was very much like a new thing to experience for me also, to go to like cinnamon cultivating spaces, and then choosing the branch. Sometimes we choose the branch and it's like too new, sometimes it's like that, and we have to get a bulk of it. And also it was a challenge because some of them are like really straight cuts, and we want very interesting shapes, so we had to buy like a extra for that, and work with that. And then we also, like, I kind of envisioned this, because the cinnamon, when we bought it, was like very much fresh, new. Like even when we are cutting that, we can smell the cinnamon like around the workshop. So now I was like kind of seeing, oh, this is going to actually like bleach and turn into that. And maybe in the monsoon it could start to like have moss.
It
And
always does,
yes, yeah.
actually.
So I think that is the one of the thing I want to do, because I want the material to be like something organic and something that blends and also sort of like decays to the place, just like the Baba's thought. It should be just like the nature should kind of take it back. I like when I see in the morning the birds are just interacting with that, and then we saw a snail when we first installed. This little thing just makes me happy, like how nature is actually like interacting with an artwork.
And it's also great that you've created a new pathway for all the ants in this location. We watched them quite intently while we were installing. And yeah, like you said, it has actually already been taken over by so many insects and animals.
Of course, yeah.
I think when it comes to sort of what you envisioned of sort of framing a space, when it comes to even the location, how while you're making your approach to the piece, the garden actually frames Firi's work that in turn frames the garden. It's really very well adapted to the garden. And then this work also is accompanied by 10 indoor works that is in the Sandala that Firi will take us to. We'll just walk around this piece with
Yeah.
Firi for a second and then make our way to the Sandala where he'll speak about his indoor work just a bit more. And here we have Firi's 10 drawings,
Yeah.
which have been retrofitted into this antique sort of window. It was quite a task.
Yeah, so I can talk. I think there's a very interesting stuff that happened here. Like when we did the drawings, and we also wanted to kind of accompany that work with some drawings. And so this is very much like what I see in the garden. Like again, I'm telling you about how it is like to grow up in Colombo in like very urban space, and then like looking through these windows and whatever, like I'm trying to look at like the birds that's around. So for me, like you all must know, this place is also where all these artists like Lucky Senanaika, Ismat Rahim, they all spend time bird watching, documenting the birds that they see around. So it's like a different generation. For me, like we're not gonna sit around and just look at the birds. For me, it's like quickly Googling it, trying to find the bird, or just kind of like it's very also what you see it here is like a sort of like a glimpse of like the bird. You don't really know what the real bird is like. So sometimes you see like a lot of sounds and the birds, and then when you're just trying to find, it's already gone. Sort of like a mystery behind these gardens, you know. So for me, like I was kind of walking around trying to spot certain birds, but also like most of these birds are like very much imaginary birds. So it's not the real birds for me because I see the long tail, it looks like a crow, the beak is like something, but I don't know what bird it is. The color is different. So for me, of course, because I work on monochrome tone, so then I was kind of like a picturing them in that. So I draw these layers of trees and the windows, everything that we see around, and then the birds are always beyond these curtains of layers of trees and right on the top on the canopy. So I'm trying to focus that by just like erasing few layers on the front. So the process is also like you draw and they just like erase and draw and erase. So this is, you see like these kind of negative spaces are the things that I'm trying to erase. So these are the layers that you have at the front and then what you see beyond that. And also especially like when we choose to exhibit in a space, I was immediately, this is one of the option I want to do. But also it's very challenging because you hardly see any empty walls. And I don't want to like remove any of the works also. We were like thinking how we can do it, maybe use this table to put the work. There's so much thought behind it also, and also not to disturb that existing architecture and the beauty and the antiques or anything. So that's where this, it's randomly happened to have like Shari was telling like, oh, can we use the Sandala window? So then as soon as she told me, I just like it picture to my head, and like next 10 minutes I just quickly did the drawings on the iPad. I'm sending to Aneesha like, what do you think about it? So it happened so quickly, like, you know, just like then immediately when he saw the artwork also, it was like, it's already looking great, like we should do it. We were like, then the challenging part, the trust took it over, the team of course. So and also then also this window, these are like in different shapes, right?
Yeah, I think not any of the 10 were the same shape or size.
So we had to do the drawings a little longer, and some of the signatures also cut off because like I did the drawings are like much larger than the window. And interestingly, I did one series first. I didn't like it, so I had to redo it in like a very short period of time. I didn't tell the team because they will panic. So I was like, okay, let me just sort this out and I do the work. Then I told, you know what, I actually had to redo everything. So yeah, it just really blends with the nature. And also it's very much like what you see through the window. This is what we see through the window. And so that's what we also thought of. It's a nice perspective to put it there.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much for everyone who has joined us today. We'll be having refreshments at the Red Terrace, that is right out here. We also have another exhibition in the reading room, Against the Order of Nature by my colleague Tilini, who is here.
Yes.
And it would be at the reading room, and anyone is welcome to check that out as well. Thank you again.